Meeting for May 6th will begin. Are we ready?
That clock is wrong. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
That clock is wrong. It's 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay. It's like all my devices say 3. Okay. All right. Well, the first one on our agenda will be roll call.
Thank you. I'll proceed with roll call. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Great. And now for general business, the first agenda item is public comment. If anyone would like to speak on a general item, not on one of the agendized items.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips for general comment, so I will move on to virtual comment. And at this time, I see no hand raised for general public comment, and we did not receive any written correspondence. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the minutes from the full board meeting on April 22nd. I do have a few edits, if we can pull those up. Under the first item for should pre-approved ADU plans be a certain architectural style. Here we go. For the first item by board member Sherry, if we can replace the word like with such as. And then under the comment from Chair Lewis, if we can say create instead of creates. So maybe we can rephrase at Santa Barbara architects create for the competition before identifying style categories. And then the second sentence should read, the plans should be site specific. And the city should consider if designs are universally accepted or determined on the design of the existing home. And then under the next broad category, let me know when you're ready for that.
Can I make one comment
Yes.
about your comment about being site specific? When you say
Or maybe should we keep site conscious then?
site conscious, because if it's site specific, it would mean for one.
That's fair. Okay, you're right. So it was to be site conscious. There you go. Thank you.
Or siting conscious.
Okay.
Conscious of the siting.
I know it's complicated.
Or orientation, siting of the. I don't know.
So if the sentence reads, the plans should be conscious of the siting, and the city should consider if designs are universally accepted or determined on the design of the existing home. I know. And then in the next section, we'd like to strike the comments "a wedding cake style with," so that the first comment reads, "Board member Sherry feels it's challenging but not impossible to provide plain plans with added options."
Yeah.
Okay.
Generic, maybe, or a universal plan.
Universal plan.
Universal plan.
And the second bullet point there, with the sentence that says "not with Spanish or modern," it should be a continuation and should say options within certain categories, comma, between, or let's see, not between Spanish. Yeah.
For example.
Yeah, the idea is that you cannot interchange Spanish and modern parts, but within those styles, they could have interchangeable parts. So we agree that a plug and play list could be devised for material options within certain styles, but not between them.
I think the spirit of the comment was that there are some styles that are that you could pull off a plug and play better, and some of those would be cottage, farmhouse, craftsman.
Okay.
We listed a few.
Oh,
Some
can
of the
you
ones
please
that-
turn on your microphone? Sorry, apologies.
I'm sorry about that. So some of the categories that could be cottage, farmhouse, or craftsman, and these were just meant to be examples, not a holistic list. Some that came to mind that would be Spanish and modern. But I think
Maybe we
whatever
just
the
scratch
spirit
the
of your
"not with
intention.
Spanish and modern," and then we
Yeah.
keep the next one. Does that work?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
fair.
So if we just scratch that middle part that says "not with Spanish or modern," and so that we keep the last sentence though.
Maybe just take out, the last sentence says, "Not all categories for work, but the subcategories of cottage." That's a run-on sentence anyway.
That's
So-
fair. You can scratch
So just
both of
scratch
them.
that and just leave the first sentence, maybe, Board Member Graffiti, if we could say, agreed a plug and play list could possibly be devised for materials, but there are challenges.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Thank you.
I think there's a couple of adds in that third bullet point too. Stated most of the ADUs won't be visible if placed in the rear yard. And the main concern in the rear or side yard. But, I mean, at the end of the day, every site is unique. We have an ADU that's in the rear yard that's on a front yard condition, so each site is unique.
And I don't even think that, like you probably said what they wrote, but I think your intent was probably, if I'm reading into it, read between the lines, it would be Vice Chair Anderson, you weren't saying that most of them are not visible necessarily, were you? Like,
Well, if in the rear yard.
some of them might not be.
Right, yeah.
So you
And-
could
and-
say some of the ADUs won't be visible,
Yeah, I
but
would
the main
definitely
concern
add the rear
is the
yard.
front yard.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And then if you scroll down to the level of comfort providing comments, straw votes, Board Member Sherry had some revisions there.
Yeah, I think that what happened on this is that you guys were listening to what we were saying, and it was kind of a train of thought. It wasn't necessarily, like, it was for
Statements.
discussion, but that's why it's not.
Brainstorming.
That's why it's not coming up. So, I would say Board Member Sherry believes that many factors come into play regarding citing visibility and neighborhood context. Did you get that? Board Member Sherry believes that many factors come into play regarding siting, visibility, and neighborhood context. Determining a design without citing it is challenging because you have no orientation. And then maybe just that's it.
And then I believe we also wanted to strike the comment regarding carpinteria.
Yeah, because I'm not 100% sure about that statement about carpinteria. It's farther down.
According to carpinteria, no changes could be made. We scratch that.
Just take that out.
Okay, otherwise I didn't have any other revisions. Did anyone else have comments?
Yeah, I had one early on. I just didn't want to interrupt you. If you could scroll to the top of this portion. I think it was the first comment that I had under board member. Keep scrolling up. I think the comment for the second point, board member Graffiti wanted clarification if the preference was for different, I guess, architectural styles or one generic design with different detailing. And that was it for me.
Okay. I move to approve the minutes as revised.
We still have more items. Do you have any?
I didn't have any other. Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, we will take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, next is approval of the consent calendar, April 29th, which was me, I believe, and those looked good. So I move to approve the consent minutes from April 29th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, next is the consent calendar from today.
Which we just did. Which we kind of read back. Okay, barn painting. Natural oil pipe wood fence does not blend with the current house. Consider either gray stain with protective sealant for the fence to match the house, or replace wood panels on the house to match the natural oil. The board appreciates the rainfall height. Okay, wait. Sorry. I know we reread these, but consider either a gray stain with protective coating for the fence to match the house, or replace the wood panels on the house. I mean, I think that's clear. The applicant knows what we're looking for there, so that the wood blends with the house. The board appreciates, I would say, plantings, the plantings to be the full height of the fence. Whatever they decide to do, because they want the reeds, but they talked about hedges if it didn't work. I would not say that that will justify the increased height of the fence. Oh, gosh. It's actually a blend of height landscaping, and colors. The applicant needs to look at all three of those. So I don't know whether you just delete that, that second sentence. Yes, the last one is fine. Okay, now it's project. Okay, got that date right. Staff shall verify that the light fixtures meet night sky. Yeah, that's great. I move to approve the minutes from today's consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Great, we'll take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, all right, any announcements from staff, future agenda items?
Thanks, Chair Lewis. Ted Hamilton, role Design Review Project Planner. I do have one announcement. We have a spring recruitment currently ongoing for the space left by Board Member Colas. We don't have any interviewees yet. No interviewees have showed up for a council meeting yet. So if you could help kind of spread the word and encourage those who, if you run into people, just encourage them to interview and apply.
Are people still able to apply then?
Not for the, well, yes, for the current spring recruitment, that application period is over. There is going to be a special recruitment coming
Okay.
up in a few weeks. Actually, next week it starts May 14th. So I'm working behind the scenes to do a little bit of outreach and let folks know, but please spread the word about that. And applications will open May 14th. They'll close June 4th, and then interviews and appointments will take place at the same city council meeting on June 11th. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other announcements from board members? Okay. All right, we will move to our first item. This is a continued item here for project design approval. 485 Bramer Ranch Lane, proposal for additions to an existing one-story, 3,072 square foot single-unit residence consisting of a 110 square foot entry, an 86 square foot kitchen addition, a new 737 square foot partial second story, and a 160 square foot deck. The accessory structure / ADU noted on the plans is under a separate permit and not a part of the SFDB purview. The proposed total of 5,172 square feet of development on a 60,757 square foot lot is 100% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. Project design approval is requested. This project was last reviewed on May 8th. Welcome. Oh, do we have staff comments?
Yeah, just one staff comment. As you can see, Board Member Sherry is on the other side of the table, so I'm just going to go to the sole proprietor statement. She wants to sit in and listen to the
And I'm only here
proceedings.
because when I go outside, I can't hear anything. I mean, Lauren's going to do the presentation, but it's important for me to hear what's going on, so I'm going to try not to say anything. But the State Fair Political Practices Act, Regulation 18702.4B5 states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee of which he or she is a member to present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for a client.
Hi,
I, Don Sherry, am a sole practitioner and am using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of my client.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any other staff comments before we get started?
no further staff comments. Thanks for
Okay.
checking in.
Then if you can make sure that your microphone is on and that you state your name. And then it is always helpful if you go through the minutes, which should be the third tab there, so that we can review the comments the board made previously.
Okay, my name is Lauren Ballantyne. I'm architect and project manager for Sherry and Associates Architects. And let's see, the minutes. Oh, I'm so used to my a laptop that scrolls. We had 5 comments at our last hearing, and they are that the board is in agreement that the size, bulk, and scale of the project appear to be acceptable. To support this position, the board would like to see 2 site sections running in the north-south direction, one through the 1-story living room volume and including the northerly property line, the second through the westerly 2-story volume and the accessory structure, including the northerly property line. Do you want me to just review these in summary and then go through, or should I take them one by one?
Either way,
Okay.
one by one is helpful, but either whatever you feel.
Okay. So I was planning on just briefly summarizing the project for you, since I know some of the board members are newer. Are my supplemental photos just in the same PDF? Oh, they're,
Yeah, they were also added and included in there.
Okay.
I also provided them on a separate tab if that's easier.
okay, thank
Thanks.
you. So we took a lot of care when designing the addition for this property to be sure that we consider the neighbors when locating it. The addition is this, or the upper level addition rather, is this dashed line here. And that's located over the garage and the existing kitchen dining area. And we chose this location for a few reasons. One is there's an ADU here that is a little bit higher on the slope that will block the views from, that will help block the views of the addition from the northerly neighbors. We also wanted to take consideration of the privacy of the neighbors on the eastern property line. We thought that because of the proximity of the neighbor to the west, that this was a better proximity for their privacy as well. And ideally, for property value and for the owner's sake, they thought the addition would work better over the master suite. But because it has a higher top plate of 10 feet versus 8 feet over here, and out of consideration for the neighbors, we decided to locate it in this area, even though it would block the views of the ADU. And so with that, I will go back to the minutes. So in the minutes, we asked for the site section, and so those are... Okay, those are shown here. And you can see the existing topography is rather steep in this area. This is the site section through the proposed addition on the upper level. And relative to the ADU, it's much lower because of the finished floor and plate height of the ADU. And then the entry addition, which just has like a smaller tower for the stairs, is shown here. And the ADU is actually beyond it, but you can see there's a 12 or a 13 foot high hedge right on the property line. So the line of sight goes over the proposed addition. So back to the minutes, that leads us to the board requesting that the applicant cooperate with the northerly neighbor to place the 4-story poles at each corner of the proposed 2-story masses with flags at the top of the poles. The northerly neighbor and the board should be advised as to when those will be in place. Let's see. So prior to our last submittal, our client reached out to the neighbor to see if they would be willing to let us come onto the property to see their view in an effort to make an informed designed choice on their behalf. Our requests were unfortunately denied. And so then after the last hearing, we were asked to provide the story poles, and we obtained a proposal, which was unfortunately thousands of dollars. We did offer to erect a telescoping pole on the roof that would be the height of the proposed addition, and then from their property view the pole as well as take photos to illustrate, and we were also denied that access. So because of the cost of the poles and looking at the site sections, as well as some additional photos, we thought that we could illustrate the site conditions pretty accurately and avoid the incurring cost. We did run this by staff, and they were in support of this approach for the board. And so these additional photos, I'll just take a second here to show you. So this photo here is taken from the carport of the ADU, and what this is really showing is how tall and dense the hedge along the property line is. And you can see the roof of the existing structure here is much lower. Scrolling down, this is taken from the patio of the accessory structure, and this is looking out over the proposed addition. And you can see a tree beyond, and also that the plate height in the master area is much higher. So if we were to propose an addition in this location, the overall height would be increased. Here's another site photo taken from the driveway, and it just really illustrates the topography in this area as well as the relative height differences between the accessory dwelling unit and where our addition will be, as well as the trees blocking any ocean views that are already there. And then this is the closest we could get to the neighbor's vantage point. We're standing on the property line. If I scroll up on the map here, we can see I stood right here, which is like kind of right in front of their pool and bedroom area from what we've been told in the letters. And that's this viewpoint here. And you can see that there's, in the area of the addition, there's already a lot of large trees blocking any ocean views. And if we were to put the addition anywhere else, it would actually make any viewpoints worse, not better. I'd also like to mention, it was mentioned in the last meeting that there are no view easements for this property. So all of these considerations are for their benefit, but they're not required. And then the next comment is to provide landscape changes and propose landscape plans. So let's see if I can do this faster this time. So we are not proposing any landscape changes on this property. It's already very well landscaped. The only increases to the building footprint are these small hatched areas here, and this is the only area in which landscape will be altered, and it's really minor. It's an existing planter that's shaped slightly differently, so we are proposing to replace the existing plantings as needed, but there will be no changes to the landscape. And then number 4, provide an updated material board including proposed roof covering material and color. And we have that here. We can review the materials from the last meeting as well with you. This is the kind of overall concept. They like a lot of natural materials, so a mix of concrete and wood. We also will be utilizing some darker metals as accent pieces for the trellis components. Kind of give you an idea of the feel. And the only new material since the last time we discussed was the gray built-up roof to match existing. This is for the flat roof at the second level, and it's just to match what's going on already, so we won't be re-roofing the entire structure. And then at the upper level roof deck, we wanted to have it blend in with the existing roof as well, and are proposing a large format gray porcelain tile at the roof deck. So nothing very extreme there. And then the last comment was to provide a survey to identify elevations of existing grades, proposed finish floors, and top of parapets. And again, since we're not really changing the footprint, we wanted to save our client in the cost of a new survey. We do have historical information regarding the topography as well as the finished floor of both the accessory structure and the existing residence. So we've included those on the site plan, and the site survey has the existing and proposed elevations noted, as well as the exterior elevations show that as well. And that concludes my presentation. I did mention it was higher. Okay, I can say that the proposed addition has an 8-foot plate height, so we're keeping that as small as possible. And again, that's over the existing structure that has an 8-foot plate versus the portion of the structure that has a 10-foot plate over here.
Okay. You have about 9 minutes remaining. If there were any other design changes between the last time you were here and now would be a good time to explain them. Otherwise, we'll open up to public comment.
Yeah, we didn't make any design changes from the last meeting. We had a lot of, overwhelming support for the design. It was more that they wanted to see just evidence of the consideration taken for the neighbors, and especially as respects to their views. So those were the primary comments. And then we added the additional materials. But no changes were made to the design or materials from before.
Okay, perfect. We will move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do have a slip from Mr. Thomas Foley. If you would please approach the podium, you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board.
And please turn on your mic.
Turn on the mic.
Yes,
Yeah.
just press, there you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
As noted, we are the neighbors to the north of 485 Bremarch Lane. First, I want to comment on the story poles. It's categorically not true that they were denied access to come onto our property. I'd like to see any emails for either of these alleged denied access. They did come on our property with their child. We had a very pleasant meeting. We discussed how high it was going to be. We said we'd like to see a landscape plan. So if there's any emails showing denial of access or referencing putting up a telescoping pole, I'd like to see those. Second, we do want to see story poles. This is what the board had in the last minutes of the meeting, to see how it impacts our view. Next, the board's minutes did call, point number 4 for an updated, point number 3 for proposed landscape changes and landscape plans. And it's not true that there's not been changes. We went on the property because it's now a vacation rental, and they've had it open on several occasions for real estate brokers that do vacation rentals to bring guests in. So since it was an open house, went down there, and there's been extensive landscaping done, including trees, which will grow into our view. So I would ask if there is a landscaping plan, since it's now been done, I'd ask to see a copy of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. McGinnis. If you could please approach the podium, you will also have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board. Speaking for the Foleys, we're concerned and disturbed that the comments of the board were essentially maybe passed on by staff, but they weren't addressed. There is a change. There's a new window. We've never talked about the views. We understand the limit to the board's discretion regarding views, but we also understand the design requirements and the neighborhood preservation and compatibility with neighbors. These neighbors have a master bedroom and a pool. directly affected by a new second story. They've added a new window. In the picture shown on A25 of the north view, there's no large window that is now shown on A23. There's a large window on that second floor. That large window, as well as the two little ones, invade the privacy of the neighboring property. Their master bedroom and their pool, Mr. Foley's office, I spend time over there. If you're in their home, to have an imposing mass looking into your home is exactly contrary to what Hillside Design Guidelines Neighborhood Preservation seeks to protect. It's a simple matter of them putting up 4 poles with some flags to let us see the mass. We'd also ask that you direct some kind of screening, maybe the use of louvers, angling the windows, something to cause these second floor windows that are looking down on my client's property, something to cause the windows to have less privacy invading effect. I've seen this board require other clients of mine to put louvers on windows, screen windows. This is an appropriate time for some imagination. If they want these big windows, the Foleys aren't trying to stop them. They're building, they have a rental property now. They're doing short-term rentals. There's going to be strangers. The Foleys would like privacy in their home. And this is really well within their rights. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now move on to virtual comment, and at this time, I see no hands raised for that. And we did receive a written correspondence from Mr. Thomas Foley. At that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, thank you. We will now move to questions. Does anyone want to start with the questions? Okay. Okay.
So, hi. I'm trying to put together how we can approach the fact that, yeah, the survey is not provided, just to verify heights. And from what I can collect from the drawings, I'm believing the way we can justify it is you've got an existing slab on grade or raised floor, and you're basing your plate heights and your parapet heights, which maybe you want to go through with me because there's plus and minus on everything. And I'm sure they're not plus or minus on everything, but what, but deducing what the plate heights are based on your historical finished floors, which is, I'm assuming, archive drawings, because you didn't provide the survey. So I'm just trying to pin down what your heights are.
Right.
And to help us say, okay, yeah, I understand though, we're at this point, it's in a simple addition, and the existing finished floor, we're not touching, we're adding on, and that's the basis of our elevation. So we don't need the survey to help us justify that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exactly right. That's our basis. Not only do we have the original construction drawings that set these elevations, but there have been subsequently approved additions and alterations to the structure that have documented those finished floors as existing, and that the topographic lines have come from. So that's where we take it from. These are, documented archive plans, and I think you can see that, the spirit of the reason why the survey was required is not because we're getting close to boundary lines or anything like that. Our addition is height related, and the photos help justify the relative height differences with the ADU, as well as, the site sections that we provided showing that.
So whatever you think your best section or elevation to go over what your first floor, because your first floor slab or raised foundation, whatever it is not changing, that's the basis. And then, so we have an 8-foot first floor and a
Right, so the
11
first
foot,
floor.
whatever it is.
I think both sections, shown on T, is this 1.3, no, 2.1, show not only the finished floor level at the main level that's existing, but we also have documented the accessory dwelling unit finished floor. And I think that's the most helpful, because the proposed elevations are only of the main residence, since we're not making any changes to the accessory unit under this permit. We can see that the new upper level, I mean, we have plus or minus on these because, we haven't constructed it. And we need to have engineering, we need structural engineers, we need project design approval before we begin engineering, really. If this location is a no-go, then we'll have to kind of go back to square one. So we're giving tolerances for the framing, floor framing, and then we're telling you that we are proposing an 8-foot ceiling height, so it's a top plate of 8 foot in the new upper level addition. And we're providing tolerances for the roof framing of that, and just a short parapet. And so I think that would be our justification for where we're getting these, heights. And I mean, if we look here between the top of the ADU parapet, which we have verified with a tape measure, and assuming that this finished floor has been well documented at 260, so, plus or minus half inch, I don't know. We can see that we're looking at a difference of, 7.5 feet between the top of our addition and the existing structure. So it's not like we're close by a matter of inches. We're well below, significantly below the existing structure. We think that is enough to demonstrate it instead of paying thousands of dollars for a survey.
Okay, got it. So I believe it's 8-foot ceiling and 11-foot or plus or minus or something, but yeah, you got your overalls. I'm just trying to pin down. That's 8-foot finished floor, you're saying there, 54 minus 50, okay, and then 11 to top of parapet. So I don't know, some of those, you haven't done any details, I guess, but I understand, yeah, the overall is 7.5. And then the other thing I was kind of looking at was top of grade. In your worst case, you're really 10.5 feet roughly. If you look at the highest point on your site, 10.5 feet above that is your overall max height. So, that's really a single story, right? Okay, just trying to get clear. And the finished slab is remaining, correct?
Yes.
You're not tearing down walls and, yeah, okay. Cool, thank you. So there are on the master bedroom windows to the west and the north that are concerning. The window to the west, though, is facing their front yard, correct?
So are we looking at the upper level?
Yes, the upper level. Thank you.
So here we have this window, which I don't believe is one that we've had any concerns about from neighbors. The northerly neighbors have 2 small windows in the bedroom that are high and small. We have the large window that they're referring to is actually in the stair tower, so a person walking, passing through the stairs is going to be not standing at the upper level finish floor when looking out of that window. They're at best going to be about halfway between. And even so, if we go back to the site section, even if we were at the top level, there's no way that anyone's looking over that hedge into the yard. It's 13 feet from, almost header height of the window.
Can you go to the north elevation? I think that would be helpful for everyone to see.
Yeah, so this is the large window. So this is the stair tower going up. We have, the stairs kind of bisecting this window here. And then at the top landing is this window. And, it's there to provide light into the stairwell. and I can show you on the plan where that's located. It's just, I mean, there's still a riser coming up. And so it's really just part of the stair tower, and it's not in the livable space. In the bathroom, we oriented the windows on the east and west, again, to just provide additional privacy to them. I mean, really, the views are this way. So that's where our large windows are oriented.
Right, trying to meet everybody with their needs.
Yeah, when you're walking up the stairs, you're walking up the stairs, you're not looking at the hedge
Right.
on the inside of the yard. That's the point, is that our clients are not going to be using the stairs to look out their window and try to even look over a hedge onto a neighbor that's quite a distance up the hill. And I don't even think they can see that house from that vantage point. You can't see the house, I don't believe.
And here are the bedroom windows. These are those. And maybe this map will also show, I mean, they're at a considerable distance, and you saw how the slope is on our property, and it just continues on theirs as well. So, I mean, they're at a much higher elevation than any of these windows.
Any other questions, Board Member Anderson? No?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I guess I can eliminate my other questions, yeah. I don't know, I mean, you've heard comments from the neighbors, you've communicated with the neighbors on the north windows they're concerning to them. I mean, it's a two-way street in regards to neighbors, so. And if it's in the coastal zone and it is a vacation rental, then there is concern. Have you considered other options for, I would say, yes, more that landing window, reduction, frosted?
Yeah, I mean, frosted is not something that we
Could work with the
typically
modern.
propose, yeah, but I mean, these are things that we're open to having as conditions for final, we can study these. I don't think that this project is going to evolve between now and final approval. And the windows were not any comments from the last meeting, so they're not anything that we really spent time studying. I think that if we were to move forward with project design approval and have that be a comment for consideration of the windows, then that would be something we'd review at final approval.
Okay, yes, but I'm typically used to seeing a lot more in a project design approval, just to give you feedback, details and exterior details. I mean, everyone's different in regards to a PDA. It's suggested to have details. Do you have a window manufacturer and door that you have considered or pinned down?
No, not at this stage.
Okay. And your colors are all what's just in the rendering, or the samples?
We have the materials board, we have these materials labeled on the elevations, and then the renderings are,
What's proposed?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Graffiti, any questions?
My only question is just clarifying a comment brought up in public comment around landscaping. Can you speak to if landscaping was recently done, and notably if there were any trees or things like that added?
I'm not aware of landscaping that's been done. We're not proposing any under this project.
Okay.
I don't have any questions. I'm happy to start our comments. I think that the intent behind the previous minutes and some of the concerns, I think, are answered in that site section. I think that that's a very helpful view that shows how small this addition is in height compared to the existing ADU. and looking at the site plan, how far it's situated from the neighbor. I think you've done a really good job of citing where this addition goes on the main house, and it does seem to be in the most private space while maintaining views for neighbors. I am not concerned with the windows. There are minimal windows on that elevation, and they're significant distance away. They're also, the larger window is in this tucked driveway court, and it's in a stair hall that you're, like you said, you're traveling upstairs. You're not standing, you're not congregating, you're not, it's not a balcony overlooking. And even if it were, we deal with so many properties where the concern is 15 feet away, and this is a significant distance away from neighboring property and house. And I think the renderings do a good job of showcasing what the addition will look like, and appreciate the street level views around so that you get a good idea of the height. And I think it adds very minimal height to the existing structure, and so it's almost minimal in the transition with the size, bulk, and scale from my opinion. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, I can go. I completely agree. I think it's thoughtfully cited. And I remember it was up for discussion when we were talking about story poles. I know I wasn't in favor just because it was more related to blocking of views and less of privacy. I think because of how far those windows and just the site in general is from that, the neighbors, I don't see the same concern. And again, the way that that space is being used, appreciate the modest plate heights, well below our general kind of max guideline for height. So I think this is a great project, and I'm comfortable to provide, PDA today.
Board Member Anderson, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, it's easier for us in approval to provide what we asked for from our previous, and I understand the economics around it. So, struggling a bit to pull it together to move it forward with a minimal package. But yeah, I mean, generally, I think that we're good to go.
Are there any, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Are there any requirements that you want to make as a part of their final that you'd want to see at final? Or conditions of PDA?
Mine was more of a final comment just around, even though, some of the neighbor views and concerns aren't necessarily in our purview, I do want to continue to encourage you guys and the owners to engage with the neighbors, landscaping just through the project. It sounds like they already met them, but just for general, everyone's neighbors and do the right thing. I don't think there's anything we can really require from our side of it, but it sounds like there's a need to continue that, relationship and those conversations.
I agree. I mean, I think that just educating and maybe going through, with the north neighbor, the sections further could resolve the concerning windows. So as a comment, not a condition, to assist with understanding, yeah, and it's really more that landing window potential reduction to satisfy, or just in a win-win situation. Yeah, and I would like to see more details on all of your materials. For me, that's going to be difficult to make our PDA around quality materials, even though I know you guys will, but I don't see any details. So it's hard for me to make that finding.
Okay, I move to approve this project for project design approval with the following comments. The proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood. The proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood, and its size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the site and neighborhood. The addition is minimal and is sited to the side of the house to reduce visibility from neighbors, and is situated a significant height below other buildings on the property. The proposed buildings and structures are designed with quality architectural details. The proposed materials and colors maintain the natural appearance of the ridgeline or hillside. The proposed materials are natural in color, and the board looks forward to seeing details at final approval. No trees are proposed to be removed. Landscape is not part of this project. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected and preserved. The project generally complies with good neighbor guidelines regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting. There are minimal windows facing properties and are at significant distance from property lines. The board does recommend continued communication with neighbors. The development including proposed structures and grading, preserves significant public scenic views of and from the hillside. No public views are altered. The development, including the proposed structures and grading, is appropriate to the site, is designed to avoid visible scarring, and does not significantly modify the natural topography of the site. There are no changes to the topography for this project. The development maintains a scale and form that blends with the hillside by minimizing the visual appearance of the structures and the overall height of structures. The addition is kept to a minimal height.
I'll second that motion.
Great, we will do roll call. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffitti,
Yes.
Thank you.
Board Member Sherry. Does she abstain?
Abstain.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay, we will move to our second item. This is a continued item here for project design approval and final approval. 1553 Shoreline Drive, a proposal to construct a 3,905 square foot, two-story, single-unit residence with a 488 square foot attached two-car garage and a 509 square foot detached standard single-story accessory dwelling unit on a vacant bluff-top parcel located in the coastal zone appeals jurisdiction. The project includes new landscape, hardscape, and fencing. The standard ADU is not within the purview of the SFDB. The proposed total of 4,902 square feet of development on a 23,333 square foot lot is 104% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. The project received Planning Commission approval on a coastal development permit on March 14th. So PDA and final are requested. The project was last reviewed here on October 9th, so welcome.
Pardon for the interruption. I just wanted to mention that for item 1, for that motion, that does start the appeal period for that project.
Thank
So
you.
just wanted to make sure we have that in the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
are there any other staff comments for the shoreline project?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I really don't have any comments for you. I just want to point out that last time the project was before you, there were a few comments that were in regards to things to be studied, so numbers 8, 9, and 10 of that motion. But otherwise, I have nothing further.
Okay. So if you can make sure that your microphones are on and you state your name for the record, and then it would be helpful to make sure that you go through the minutes previously, which are the third tab.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Oxner, project architect, and I have Courtney Miller here, the landscape architect. And we are recently coming from Planning Commission, as you know. The project that they reviewed there is largely exactly what you'd seen. When this project went to them, we were carrying forth your comments, coming back and responding to them. We are here for PDA and final. And what I'd like to do is go through the comments that pertain to some responses. And then that might be a good way to start. Do that. So. Get through the landscape here, of course. We'll come back. And I think we'll get to the exterior elevations. I want to get to the north elevation here. So let's see, the applicant shall, there were 10 comments, and 8, 9, and 10 required some study on our part. The applicant shall study the second floor window visible on the west side of the north elevation as it relates to the amount of plaster return on either side. So what we did was, that was this window right here. We reduced the width of it so it's not pushing the edges of the interior corner or the outside corner. So that, instead of a double casement, that went to a single casement. The westerly neighbor, okay, so let me go to the floor plan. There was a concern on the westerly side right here. This balcony was within 15 feet of the property line. And what we looked at doing is we pulled it back so that it's now, I'll zoom in on that, so that it is now 15 feet. And we widened this up, and so now we have our 15 feet from the standing area. And it's a very narrow balcony, and it's off the master. It's not really an opportunity for a great gathering place. Item 10, the applicant shall provide windows or an acoustical method of addressing potential noise coming from the covered loggia that could cause disruption to the easterly neighbor. So that, let's look at the first floor plan. So right here, we've got an indoor-outdoor room, this loggia here, and these two punched openings were the concern. What we've done is we've applied curtains, which are good at absorbing noise, and we're proposing them in these openings. And I think that should soften noise traveling through those openings. Let's see here. I'd like to go back and look at the finishes. Okay. Starting with the roof, we've got a two-piece mission tile sand cast with a very soft mix. I'm familiar with that blend. The exterior is a smooth trowel, and that is the color. It's an off-white. The windows will be Master Ironworks real iron windows, and predominantly casements, and there'll be a dark charcoal finish. The ironwork will be a dark charcoal finish as well. This is the color of the exposed stained timbers on the rafters and the beams. We've got leader head, looks like this, of copper. The stone we're using in and around the house itself, Courtney can answer the other materials on the site, but is the Cherokee stone. And then we've got a real 2-inch stone veneer in our accent locations and real copper gutters, night sky compliant lighting, and our exterior recessed lights, which are really in the ceilings that slope away from the perimeter. So they're pretty subtle, and there's not a lot of them. If we go to the lighting plan, we can see, if I can find it, that's way down here. There we go. So we've got back deep in the loggia here, and that's pretty much it. As far as, let's look at the exterior. I'm trying to think of any other items. Here we go. So the deep, and then we've got terracotta on the chimney caps as well, and the garage door is wood to match that color. And I think that I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to let Courtney step in and go through her work.
Thanks, Tom. Let's see. I'm not sure where our plans are. Are they towards the front? Okay, here we go. So I believe most of you were here at the last review, and the design hasn't really changed. What we've done is advanced our drawings to construction docs. So I'll just walk you through. Tree protection, we have 2 existing trees, one pretty poor specimen coral tree that's a street tree. We have an approval for that removal from the Parks Department. Letter is indicated here. And we have one existing oak tree which we're protecting, and Tom's office has, organized the building around that tree. So that's great. Our construction plan, so we did bring material samples. They're here on the corner of the table if you want to, come look and feel at some point. But they're also indicated here on the plan. So like Tom mentioned, we have Cherokee Creek stone for the rear terrace and the walkway that extends out to the bluff. The walkway will be sand set in smaller pieces, similar to this image, so that it's compliant with the bluff development code. And then the terrace will be mortar set and probably a little bit larger pieces. Driveway will be a cobblestone, that's indicated here. This image makes it look very charcoal, but in fact it kind of ranges from a tan to a gray. And then we also have some gravel proposed for the side yard here under the oak. That'll be, just purposes so that we don't plant anything there and we don't have dirt tracking around into the house. And then we also have this sort of very informal path throughout the bluff, and that will be gravel as well. And that color is indicated here. And then we'll have some small Santa Barbara sandstone used for, to hold up the terrace in the back. The idea is that it feels very organic and just sort of nicely blends out into the bluff landscape there. Let's see what else. Planting. So the one comment we did have from the last meeting, there was, as Tom mentioned, some concern about privacy with the primary bedroom here on the corner, and so we did add a tree there as well. That's I'm trying to remember, Catalina ironwood, which are very narrow and upright trees. Generally, the planting design, again, hasn't changed. We just now have real plants. And the idea is that we have sort of 2 personalities going on. So in the front, we're calling this the arrival garden.
street facing along the road, and then a little bit more intimate as you get into the courtyard here. But those are all ornamental species, some natives mixed in, all low water. We do have some elements of cutting garden. Our client was really interested in having that incorporated into the design. So pretty foliage and flowers, things that you can cut. And then as you move towards the bluff, within the development buffer, 100% native California plants. Everything within that space will need to be able to withstand no irrigation after the establishment period. So that's definitely the priority. And, our client loved the idea of having that whole space feel very kind of effortless and not overly manicured and just very much like a natural bluff. And then along the street, I didn't mention this, but we did not change this from the previous design. We don't have a gate or fence proposed along the street frontage. It's just going to be terraced. It's not a hedge, an informal screen planting here, not tightly clipped, and then it'll kind of step down in height as you get towards the street. So that is how we're, achieving our privacy there. And let's see what else we have. Probably lighting design, irrigation. The backflow valve is located behind that hedge. Oops. So it's back here. This is the hedge symbol here. So the backflow will be behind that. And then lighting design, we have very minimal site lighting. We just have this one fixture. It's a path light. It's very small. And we like how minimalist it is. For this scale of garden, it is very appropriate. So just a couple along the front driveway and then around here. We might actually end up removing one or two of these depending on what's happening with the sconces on the house. And then just a couple to give the bluff some depth and maintain safety there around those paths. And I think we have details if you'd like me to review any of these or have questions, but pretty standard stone paving on slab, permeable stone, flagstone steps for the back, and we have a really simple steel fence for the perimeter. And a barbecue here. There's also a fun little garden gate that we're still working on finalizing, but that's to give a little bit of privacy off of the front courtyard. And that concludes my presentation, I think, unless Tom has anything else. No.
I just remembered that I didn't go over the architectural details, and I'm happy to do that if you'd like. Okay. Okay, so we have a variety of eaves on this residence. We've got struck eaves. Let me see if I can zoom in here. There we go. We have struck eaves. We have extended heavy timber eaves. And we have an open eave condition where we have our covered patios. And we've got a struck rake in most of the conditions throughout the building. This is our leader head detail. We've got some exposed beam corbel here, a variety of chimney cap details with terracotta and plaster detailing. Let's see, we've got a variety of stud thicknesses with recessed windows that are pushed back closer to the inside face of stud. And we have guardrail details. This is the thickened wall on that east side that we were, or excuse me, the west side that we were discussing. And we've got a Mirador heavy timber bay window condition. We've got some skylights that are set down low so that the roof tile surrounds them the best that we can. And that gives you a flavor of the detailing on the exterior.
Okay, perfect, thank you. We will move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I will start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. However, if you wish to make a comment, please fill out a slip and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will move on to virtual comment. And at this time, I see no hands raised for this particular item. And we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Perfect. We will start with questions. Board Member Graffiti, any questions?
No questions.
Board Member Anderson?
Nope.
All right. We will move to comment. Who would like to start us?
I can start. I'm just so appreciative to a complete set of well-done drawings because it makes our life so much easier to justify the PDA. So I'm in support of PDA and final.
I am too. I think it's a great project, and I think you've walked through everything, and I think the adjustment to the balcony was good. I did mean for one of my questions, would you mind clicking to the minutes on the third tab just so we can quickly see if there's anything else? Okay. Perfect. Okay. Any other comments?
No, same. I think it's a great project, ready for PDA and final.
Okay. Do one of you want to make a motion? Otherwise, I will.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I would like to move to approve the project at 1553 Shoreline, sorry, glasses, Drive. To approve it for project design approval and final. The project, yes, we'll go through the neighborhood preservation findings. So, yes, item one, the proposed development will definitely enhance the neighborhood. I think that what we stated previously still holds. The siding is excellent. The landscaping is very thoughtful with the openness and welcoming and kind of a breath of fresh air for, some of the walled-off high hedges residents that we see. So, yeah, item one, we will definitely enhance the neighborhood. Its proposed development is compatible with size, bulk, and scale due to great project silhouettes where we can see it compared side by side. It's compatible, yes, and we were able to verify quality architectural materials with an extensive array of construction details. And we're moving on to trees, yes. And what did Courtney say? She said that, the project trees have been approved to remove one tree, I believe, and we're protecting another oak. And all the plantings are organic on the bluff. And so, yes, we definitely can say that we meet all of the item D items for trees. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected and preserved. The project generally complies with good neighbor guidelines, providing privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting. We have added a tree for privacy on that west side. Thank you. We've reduced the deck to meet our 15-foot property line setback. Thank you. We've added curtains on the east outside loggia to assist with any potential noise in the adjacent neighbor. And the lighting is all night sky compliant and minimal. Appreciate that. The development, including the proposed structures and grading, is appropriate to the site, is designed to avoid visible scarring, and does not significantly modify the natural topography of the site or the natural appearance of the ridgeline or hillside. Yes, because all of the coastal requirements, right? The development maintains a scale and form that blends with hillside by minimizing the visual appearance of the structure and the overall height of structures. Oh, and we have grading. Okay. Proposed grading will not significantly increase the siltation or decrease water quality of streams, drainage, because, yes, we've done extensive work to mitigate all of that. The proposed grading will not cause substantial loss in oak because we're protecting the oak. And then for final, the project generally substantially conforms with the previous submittal and meets all of our final required documents.
I'll second.
Okay, we will take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffitti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to announce the appeal period for that project. So if we don't receive anything within 10 calendar days, we can go ahead and move this project forward to the building
Oh,
permits.
I forgot.
Thanks.
Items.
And we are moving a little bit ahead, so we are going to wait until 4:30 to start the third item. The single-family design board meeting is back, and we are on our third item. This is a new item here for project design approval, 2315 Edgewater Way, a proposal to demolish the existing two-story residence and attached garage located in the Hillside Design District and appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, and construct a new 3,285 square foot two-story residence with an attached 730 square foot two-car garage, 600 square foot basement, and 625 square foot accessory dwelling unit. The proposed total of 4,640 square feet on a 22,651 square foot lot is 98% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. The project received Planning Commission approval of a coastal development permit on October 5th, 2023. Project design approval is requested. No, yeah. I
Yeah,
think you may start
I'm going to
first.
make a comment first. So I will be recusing myself from this item for a perceived conflict of interest as I live within 500 feet of this home, or I own a property within 500 feet of this home. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other staff comments?
Hi, I'm Kelly Broadison, and I was the planner that was associated to this coastal development permit project. And the Single-Family Design Board has already reviewed this project and granted project design approval. And then, so once it was previously under an appeal, and once the appeal was withdrawn, formally withdrawn by the appellant, we had the applicant resubmit under a new PLN. And it's basically the same project as it was that you've already reviewed, except for I think they took a little bit of floor area out, like near the garage, just so that they could still not have a front setback and keep it out of the left setback. So it's here today for final approval if the board so decides it can grant that.
Can you say again who withdrew the appeal?
The appellant, the next door neighbor.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right. Any other staff comments? No? Okay. If you can make sure your microphones are on and state your name and walk us through the project.
Ken Radke from Blackbird Architects.
Shaheen Gazvini-Zadeh from Blackbird.
Arturo Zaragoza, CJMLA, Landscape Architect.
Chair Lewis, members of the board, thanks as always for being here for us, especially board member Sherry. Hazard pay for today. As we heard, the project was appealed after Planning Commission approval and PDA due to geotechnical sort of challenge, if you will. So this is the an elevation view from the street, and we'll just go right into it. The situation is on Edgewater, 2315. On the mesa, you can kind of see this mesa terrace, this long, skinny lot that does have bluff going down to the ocean, and you can see where the existing house is. That's kind of a hodgepodge of structures that were collected there at the back over the course of 50 years. Next. So 2315, right there in the middle with the yellow outline, is you can see the existing situation, things kind of hugging along Edgewater there. Next. The yellow, this yellow outline there that we've just added is the proposed outline of the new structure that's going to replace that one that's right underneath it. So very close to the same footprint. Next. This is the previously approved, just so you kind of get a sense of how close we are. This is the previously approved plan, and you can see if we start from the right, there's a coast bluff edge, there's a bluff edge setback, and then there's a development setback that was essentially determined by the geotechnical report at this point. And so then the changed plan brings the pool and that end of the house behind. Everything that's new is behind that purple bluff edge setback. And the change that happened, as staff pointed out, is on the left there, where you can see a curving garage face versus a rectangular garage face on the previously approved plan. And that allows the whole structure to scoot back 9 or 10 feet, and just required us to use a kind of an old-fashioned bifolding garage door to get in and out of the garage and just adjust the plan a little bit. The plan as approved before had no modifications, nor does this proposed plan have any proposed modifications at all. So we can see the street context here. That's the existing structure, which actually is in the front yard setback. Next. Sort of diversity of things, of palette in the neighborhood. That's the neighbor immediately to the east or the left. Next. Neighbor immediately to the right, and you can see that driveway there, the gray one. We'll show photos of that as well. This is looking into the site, seeing the structures to be removed. Context views. This is looking down the neighboring driveway. So this driveway accesses a small property that's on the bluff, and this driveway is kind of good because it forms a 2-fence buffer to the westerly neighbor. This is the existing south face, this kind of like accretion. It's a yard, gorgeous bluff top site. Here you can see the surveyed existing situation. Next. And essentially, we're just putting this new structure right in the same spot as the existing structure with a very similar shape, actually, in terms of the way the footprint works and the organization works. Again, we're going to demolish, remove this existing building. There's some non-specimen trees to be removed, a eucalyptus and some other citrus and so forth, and landscape architects can talk about that next. Proposed site plan behind the bluff top setback. There's a little front courtyard, a driveway that gets to the garage, an arrival, and then essentially a great room on the ground floor with a tiny little sort of health-oriented spa pool, swimming pool with a hot tub. We could probably go and cover the landscape plan as proposed in sequence.
Okay, thanks. So the main changes here are mostly in the front, especially like Ken said, the curved garage. So we worked closely with the architect to site the new driveway. And with the new driveway, we were able to get one more olive tree from what was previously designed. And the planting there is very almost effortless, and lots of gray colors and pops of dark foliage for contrast, along with some nice purple, beautiful flowers. As you go on to the main entry there, there is a gravel pathway from the road to the main building, which creates this long axis that steps down because of the grading using stone slabs. And from the driveway, there's also that vertical concrete pathway to connect to those. As you get into the main front entry garden area, the planting is very homogeneous there with, I believe, Carex divolsa, and that's to also play off the formality of the two cypress trees flanking that main entry door, and also not to take away from the what will be stone veneer low garden walls as you step down. And then also stone steps as you go up to the upper unit above the garage. And as you go onto the sides, up on the east, it's just a simple gravel pathway with more informal planting, and also a retaining wall there to deal with the slope. And then that leads to the pool area. And on the westerly side would be this very kind of unique moment as you're walking towards that back entry with stone steppers with gravel joints and small plantings kind of interspersed between those open gaps left over from the steppers that are kind of loosely aligned. And that's basically it.
We'll cover it briefly, and if you have questions, we're more than happy to cover details. Stormwater plan is complex on the bluff. We really can't infiltrate or send things to the bluff, so we're capturing water, reusing some of it for minor irrigation, and then also later putting it back out to the larger stormwater system at the street. Next. So the ground floor, again, you see this courtyard. You arrive in a kind of a central distributing space at the middle of the site, behind the garage, and then the great room on the ground floor. You can see this site slopes 6 feet from the street towards the bluff. And so the whole thing is set in to not have to disrupt that any more than possible. So there are stairs between the garage and the lower level. Next. Upper floor plan that has been adjusted in this round. At the far left is this ADU upstairs, and that was massaged in order to make it fit in. And then just bedrooms and den and bathrooms on the bluff side. Next. Roof plan, the entire palette is sort of a romantic Mediterranean palette, and we'll show you photos of that. You can see the proposed setback is well back from a fairly gentle slope. We're distinctly below the 30-foot height limit. Here you can see that there's change in grade from property to property and within the property as well. So we're lower than the neighbor to the right, which is the west, and sort of comparable to the easterly neighbor. This, you see that long elevation. The palette has sandy colored plaster, some sandstone accents, traditional tile roof that's hipped, a little rotunda in the middle, which is sort of the accent entry feature that has the stairway in it, and again, sort of massing with sculpted window openings, wrought iron. Next. Here you can see on the bluff side a little covered outdoor patio with openings to the view. Upstairs kind of set back to that bedroom. And next. Again, you can see the sort of the improvised massing throughout in all 4 directions to break up the massing and take advantage of this playful palette and language. Next. That's again, we're back out to the street view. And do you have that palette, the palette photo? I think that's a different tab probably. So here's, again, everything here is identical to previously approved things at PDA and at Planning Commission. This sort of earthy, sandy, Mediterranean palette, classic sort of massive forms and broken up sort of in improvised fashion. The landscape palette goes right along with that, with some stone, gravel, pavers, cobblestone, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. All right, we will open up to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill out a slip and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so I will move on to virtual comment. And I do not see any hands raised for virtual comment, so I will move on to written correspondence. And for this particular item, we did receive written correspondence from Skip Willis, and Mahesh Balakrishnan. And at that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
All right, perfect. We will move to questions now. In the first one, most of the comments from the neighbors were with construction, but one of them is a question about the hedge on the westerly property line. Can you go back to the slide that shows that in the site plan?
Is this the one that you're looking for?
Right. Yeah, so you were talking about plantings versus a hedge. So if you can walk us through that again, the proposed on that side.
Yeah, I can comment on this a little bit. This neighbor to the west, who wrote the letter, is concerned about screening along this side, and we have a continuous hedge as tall as possible.
Yeah, so we currently have 24-inch box Podocarpus gracilior hedges currently on our plans, which we would try to make sure that they would be 8 feet height at install, and I think 12-foot height maximum for maintenance to be able to screen that. I don't think we can go beyond the 12-foot height.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's also where you pointed out the driveway, the distance there, and then the additional screening. Okay. Were there other questions from the board? Any questions?
I just had one, and that was just the FAR and understanding the existing square footage with the proposed. If you could go over that, and then if you know any of the neighbors and FAR, I know we didn't do any studies, it's not a deal breaker for me. I'm just trying to, of course, come up with justifications for our PDA.
And with that, if it includes the ADU.
Interestingly, at
Yes.
the time of these submittals, the ADU square footage was actually included in the FAR,
Okay.
which sort of gives you a little bit of a headwind from the way that was calculated for the FAR, because sometimes it's calculated in, sometimes out. So
Right.
within that 98% is included the ADU.
Okay.
And I think the neighborhood generally is maxing out their FARs just because of the property, sort of great settings.
Any other questions?
No?
Okay. All right, moving into comments. I think the presentation was fantastic and really thorough. I think the site elevations are really helpful in understanding the street bulk and scale and size, and I think it's very compatible with the neighbors. I think moving it up, I really like the additions and the landscaping. Even in the rendering, you can't quite tell, but some of it is kind of going to fill in more on the left side, which I think will be really beautiful, and the approach works well. And I think what is planned on the rear, I have no concerns from the visibility from the public views looking at the property. Any other comments?
I agree with Chair Lewis's comments. No further additional comments.
Yeah, I think it's an outstanding submittal. Design, very creative. The siding is great, and appreciate actually what was transpired through the neighbor to the west in the siding and the footprint. There's where you come with that win-win. So I'm totally in support of the project.
So I'll move to approve this project for project design approval with the following comments. The proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood. It is a beautiful upgrade to the existing property. The proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood, and its size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the site and neighborhood as indicated on the street silhouette elevations. It's a comparable height, and the setback with the courtyard space gives it reduced appearance from the street on the size of the property or building. The proposed buildings and structures are designed with quality architectural details. The proposed materials and colors maintain the natural appearance of the ridgeline and hillside. We are looking forward to architectural further details during final approval, but the details and materials suggested appear of high quality. Let's see, trees. There were no trees to be removed. Okay.
Yeah, no specimen trees.
Great. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected and preserved, especially in the siting of the building. The project generally complies with the Good Neighbor Guidelines regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting. The development, including proposed structures and grading, preserves significant public scenic views of and from the hillside, and there are no significant changes to the topography impacting views. The development, including the proposed structures and grading, is appropriate to the site, is designed to avoid visible scarring, and does not significantly modify the natural topography of the site or the natural appearance of the ridgeline or hillside. There is no significant grading proposed. The development maintains a scale and form that blends with the hillside by minimizing the visual appearance of structures and the overall height of structures. The scale is in keeping with previous development.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we will take a vote. Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Graffitti?
Abstains.
Abstains. Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you all. And I just wanted to mention that that does start the appeal process, so 10 calendar days, if we don't receive anything, we can go ahead and keep this project moving forward, and feel free to contact me for final approval details and what you guys need for that if you want. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you.
We owe you some coffee or something.
Okay, our last item is scheduled for 5:30, so we will wait until 5:15. board meeting is back on. If you can take a seat, please.
Oh, yeah, guys,
We're back
we're gonna reconvene
Okay.
here. Thank you.
We are on our last item. This is a new item here for project design approval. Address is 215 Cannon Drive. A proposal to construct a 798 square foot special accessory dwelling unit, a 440 square foot 2-car detached garage, a new driveway curb cut, retaining walls, and a pedestrian walkway. Proposed grading quantities are 136 cubic yards of cut and 277 cubic yards of fill, with 141 cubic yards imported. The proposed total of 4,386 square feet of development on a 25,409 square foot lot is 93% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. A minor zoning exception is requested for the retaining walls within 10 feet of the front lot line. Project design approval is requested. So welcome. If you can make sure your microphone is on and state your names for the record. Staff, do you have any updates on the project?
I have no staff comment at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if you can just walk us through your project.
All right, I'm Jarrett Gorin from Vanguard Planning.
And I'm Sergio.
Turn on. There you go. Green light's on. You can leave it on.
Oh, I see. My bad. Sergio Machea with Vanguard Planning.
Great. So let's show them the site plan real quick, blow that up a little. So we have a interesting lot here. It's on Cannon Drive, and it's actually on Cannon Drive twice. The road loops around, sort of a hairpin turn, and the front of our lot, where the main house is on the uphill side, and then it drops off kind of steeply down to the other side. And the neighborhood feel is like totally different on both sides of this lot. So on the other side, you have sort of these larger homes with big sweeping front yards, and they look almost flat. And then on the other side, it's like rural in nature, and there's slopes on the one side of it, and then the other side slopes down, and there's a creek behind those houses across the street from us. So it's a totally different feel down there, and we're going to site this ADU down on the back side of the lot and access it off of the street that's right down there. Why don't you go to just those pictures? Yeah, let's just go through the pictures real quick, give them an idea of the street.
You also on the second tab have your site photos.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're going
I just want to show you the neighborhood real quick.
overall before we jump in. There we go.
So this map is keyed sort of around where our project site is, and you can see it's treed in. There aren't big lawns. A lot of the homes here seem like they're closer to the street than they are up on the other part of Cannon Drive. There's some, we'll get to this in the site plan, but the setbacks here are, we're in the San Roque Park overlay. So there's really big setbacks required under zoning, and then also the actual property lines are quite a ways off the street already. They're like 20 feet off of where the pavement ends on the street. Most of the houses that are going along here were built before that setback got imposed or was enforced, because a lot of these houses are right on where their property line would be relative to where the street is. So this is just kind of what's around us here. And then why don't we have a picture. Yeah, that's our site right there. So most of that flat area in the foreground, that's actually in the road right of way. And then our property line starts back where the truck is, roughly in that photo. And then our site begins to slope up, and first it slopes up a little, and then it begins to slope up a lot. So let's go over to our site plan. And do we have a big version of that shows the topography? Is that on our floor plan sheet?
It's also in the floor plan.
That's a good one right there, this sheet, the engineering plan. So we'll use this engineering plan as the site plan. So you can see the street there, you can see where our property line is, quite a ways off the street. And then this is a special ADU, so it isn't subject to front setbacks actually. But there has to be a reason to go in the front setbacks. You can't just do it because you want to. So the reason on this site is because you start getting into some really steep topography and trees and things if you get further back from our property line. So we sort of try to balance everything out on this site and optimize things so that we were minimizing the grading, trying to provide as much setback as we could, avoiding trees that were there, and that ends up putting the structure where we've got it. So part of the structure is right up next to the property line, and then it sort of angles away from it. And then the garage, which isn't allowed to encroach on a front setback, it's set back further so that it complies with the standard setbacks. And then that also gives us a larger driveway and gets the garage door so it's not right up on the street. So we've got a retaining wall behind the garage in the house. It's integral to the garage. We separated it from the house. It gets to about 6 feet tall max, but the entire wall is blocked by the house. And we wanted to separate it in that case because the house doesn't have like huge plate heights. And if we did an integral retaining wall in the house, we'd end up having the ground coming up to within just a few feet of the plate, and then the eaves overhanging the plate, and we'd end up with this weird like tunnel thing, which it wasn't good. So we provided this offset here, and it's not that big of a retaining wall, and so we have room to get drainage out, and it also gives us some opportunity for windows on the backside of the ADU. And you can see we did a long skinny ADU so that it could follow the contours and minimize how much cut and fill would be needed to do this. For the minor zoning exception, that has to do with our retaining walls in the front. So these ones, as we go up the stairs, we have to get up to the height of the ADU, and so we have a couple of terraced walls there, but because they're less than 10 feet apart, I think, you add the heights together so they exceed the 42 inches within 10 feet, so it requires that minor zoning exception. So let's go to the elevations real quick. Yeah, so here's our elevations, and it's just a nice and simple gable cottage that matches the architectural style of the main house on the other street. Same colors, same materials, divided lights, just simple. It's a simple subordinate structure and has its whole own frontage and kind of looks like its own house on its own lot from that street down below. So I think we could wrap our presentation there, and then if there's anything else you want in detail, we can go into it with questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, please fill a slip out and bring it to me.
We got here too late to do the slip, I guess.
Okay, you can do it after. That's fine. And your name is?
Greg Lowe, L-O-W-E.
Okay, Mr. Lowe, please approach the podium. The mic is on. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, thanks. So I've lived in that area across the street, just adjacent, for 40 years. And the photos don't really do it justice. There's a thin strip of land and then a very steep cliff, you might call it, of about 60 feet. And so during that time, I never really thought about development there because it just didn't pass the common sense rule that all this forest, which it is for like 300 yards across there, and the topography being such as it was, I never really dreamed there would ever be development. In the meantime, in California, during these 40 years and before, is filling up. And ag lands getting turned over, and orchards are pulled out, cities are being built, and traffic is clogging the freeways and the streets, which I can attest to coming over here at 5 o'clock. And so something else was going on during that time, evidently, something called a housing element, which nobody ever talked about till now, which was done in spite of all this development, it would seem to me, and seems to have sort of greased the wheels. Now, where that came from, I don't know. I never voted for it. My legislator never gave me an opportunity to weigh in. I imagine the developers had something to do with it. And now it's becoming more and more common language. And then on top of the housing element, this ADU program has been developed. And I think what we got now is a developer's wet dream. And it reminds me of like the oil drillers or the oil boom when it happened and they came in and
So
it
you're
just
out
kind
of
of became
time?
oil. Pardon me?
You're out of time, but thank you. If you want to close up in a quick comment.
Yeah, this project calls for removing 100 tons of dirt and bringing in 100 tons of materials into this highly flammable area. Doesn't fit. I don't really have any illusions about what's going on here, and I do want to say that the neighbors have been neighborly, and they had a meet and greet and show and tell. These fellows were there, and it was pleasant. But, so I'm just making these comments. I hope somebody's listening. I'm not sure you are. Maybe someone else is. Maybe somewhere in the room, Pearl Chase is listening. I don't know.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, at that, we will continue on. And your name is Miss?
Sherry Lowe.
Okay, you have 2 minutes to speak, Miss Lowe.
Thank you. I just want to say with projects like this, people should get more than 2 minutes because, you know, they have such a dramatic impact. I think this project is opening up the way for the people down the street to do the very same thing. We were told they would be taking 108 tons of dirt out of the canyon side. This is a canyon. We're down in a canyon. So that means everyone can do it that decides to build. So that means that just going down the street, that could be 600 tons of dirt taken out of that hillside there, which is just unbelievable when you consider over time with the kind of rains we're getting, with climate change. San Roque's really hot in the summer and wet in the winter, and you know, that whole thing could come crashing down. I think it's a very, very dangerous project, actually. No, I don't think the people that are doing it are dangerous. They were very kind, very nice in explaining everything. But I think the photographs that they showed are not representative of the project. The project, you go across the street, there's about 25 feet of flat ground. Then you have an incline, and then it gets really steep and up to 60 feet because it's a canyon wall. Excuse me, I am just amazed. And I mean, if Pearl Chase was here today, she would be spitting nails. She's dedicated her whole life so that we can live in this beautiful city. But we're just getting more projects that, I mean, look at Montecito, look at the bluffs in Isla Vista. This whole thing in 10 years could come crashing down in a heavy rain. And that's what I'm concerned about. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to virtual comment. At this time, I see no hands raised for virtual comment. And we will move on to written correspondence that were received. And we did receive letters from Chris and Judy Upham and Amanda and Mark Craig. And at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
All right, thank you. We will move to the questions portion. First, if you wouldn't mind talking through the discussions you've had with Geotech and or Civil for your site.
Yeah, so we engaged Civil on this. We have a full soils report. They fully engineered our retaining walls and our entire drainage plan. We did tier 2 on this, or was it? It was tier 2, so we have to mitigate all of our runoff. We're detaining it and pre-treating it before it leaves the site. It's a pretty small footprint project, but we're handling everything. If you see that little blue dot there, that's sort of an existing natural depression on the site where the drainage all goes anyway. So we're still continuing to take it over there. But that's, yeah, I mean, we have arborists look at this. We had to get a whole biology study done. We really done some extensive study on the site and determined that the project's not creating any significant environmental impacts or physical impacts or drainage impacts.
And then do you have a site section that shows where the topography starts going up, or anything that might indicate how much higher the main house is?
Sure.
Yeah, well, one from the topo, you can see it's 40 feet high, but we'll go to the section as well. This is a compressed section, meaning it's not that steep, but you can kind of see.
So that's compressed horizontally. So what, 270 is the top of the slope and 255 is at the bottom. So what is that?
Could
I'm
you
terrible
circle
at math.
about where the main house is and where your current one is?
Sure, so this is the finished floor.
Right, of the
250
ADU.
with the skirts on both
Okay,
sides.
can you just be sure to speak into the microphone and make sure it's on? Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So the main house is up there at 270.
Okay.
And the ADU here.
And then I saw on,
But hang on a second.
mhm.
That main house is higher than 270.
Yeah.
I know, I think that one is just really quick.
Let's go back to the full topography, which shows all of it going up. So,
This is, they cut it off.
yeah, what's our top contour up at the very top where the
At
house
the main
is?
house.
Go to the survey, which is here. Top contour.
That's 294.
And it goes
94.
up even higher for the main house, or it's relatively flat up there.
294 is the grade
Okay,
up
got
there.
it.
It's
Okay.
flat.
This is their backyard lawn.
Yeah, and then 255 is what we're at down at the bottom of that slope.
Okay. So like 40-ish feet.
43 feet.
Okay,
40-ish.
okay.
So why don't you go to those section cuts through the ADU that show the wall and show actually the cut through
Where the
the
retaining
structure.
wall is. Mhm.
We'll go to maybe our section.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
ones.
there, okay.
So these ones are to scale all the way across. They're not shrunk horizontally. So, yeah, you can see that we're cutting in a flat pad. We got about a 6-foot tall wall in the back, our pad, and then it slopes down. We wanted to avoid lots of walls on the downhill side, so we're just sloping, we're just creating a stable angle slope down there.
So, but if you zoom into section 2 or 3, either one of those, go up, there you go. So the idea though, would the ground kind of slope down into your retaining wall, or you're gonna cut that back and then sit below your retaining wall?
It is going to feather back where that dotted line is. So it ends at the height of the retaining wall, and then that,
Okay, so it
the
will
dotted
slope,
line
okay.
would be the new
Is the
slope.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Okay. And then what is the intended detail for your site walls? I saw plaster on the next page, but are there going to be any caps or anything, or do you have photos of other site walls on site that they're matching?
There aren't really any site walls at the top because it's completely flat up there. Do we have some pictures of the house? Do they have like garden walls or something? I mean, the idea was just simple CMU block walls with a stucco trowel coat on them and matching the siding of the house.
I'm curious for the board and also your thoughts on the wall that's holding up the actual landscaping that runs behind the house, that one being of more natural materials instead of the bright white color.
Yeah, that would be fine. I mean, we could build that out of like a slump stone or split face block or something in a natural color that would blend in. That really wouldn't change our construction at all. It would save us the stucco coat.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Of course. Are there any other ADUs in the area that are on this side of the site that you've come across on this
The Chair Lewis, Board Member Anderson, there is an ADU that's part of this house right here, basically across the street from us. It's a huge house, by the way. That house has like 4 levels, and it has a whole bunch of, it's got like a 1,200 square foot basement that they dug a lot of dirt out of to create. The creek is behind this house, and that house has an ADU as part of it.
That's on the up side of, or
That's
the
on the
front
downhill side.
side? Oh, that's on the downhill side. Okay, where, can you show
I'm not
me?
aware of any other ones on the uphill side.
But I think it's on the other side of the street.
It's direct, it's like directly across the street from us.
This one, this is the ADU site. It's right here.
Yeah, it's that house.
Okay, so it's sitting behind the house, though, yeah.
Yeah, it's down, it's in part of
By the
that
creek.
structure.
Okay, so not as visible. I mean, you have basically a double front yard is what we're looking
Yeah,
at.
and that lot has 1 front yard, and we have 2
Two,
front yards.
right. And, yeah, so, I mean, mine kind of major, or minor concerns, whatever you want to call them, is aesthetics, because you do have 2 front yards. And you did say you're tying in with the existing design style of the house. Maybe you can go through your finishes further with us and how you're proposing to match the paint of the wood sill, detail-wise.
Well, that's, I mean, we're essentially going detail for detail to match the house. So that's the existing house. We're using the simple divided lights. I guess, what do we have, like a dark green trim?
Yeah.
We have that sill at the bottom of all the windows. We're gonna have 2x6 walls, all exterior on the ADU. So there will be nice reveals around the windows. We're doing a comp shingle roof and gutters. And we're basically gonna match what's on the house, with the exception of that sort of modern addition that's on the very back there. We're not matching that. We're gonna match all the traditional parts of the house. And then the material callouts and colors are right there on that sheet. And those are matching the house.
Garage door, sorry.
No, that's pavers. That's the driveway.
Right, but you're not proposing any brick, like on the existing house, that's 1. And then 2 is, what is your garage door that you're proposing there on the ADU?
Just a standard sectional roll-up door, no windows.
It's similar, I think, from these photos.
And sir, I'm not seeing brick on the,
Existing
I guess in
house?
the
I mean, I see the
patio,
patio is
we
brick,
don't have
but I don't see brick on the elevations of the house. So our driveway and the hardscape areas are brick, but we don't have brick siding at all. And we don't have a chimney or anything that would be brick like on this house.
Okay, and you're proposing a 9-foot plate on your ADU. What is the existing house plate? And you're proposing 2 different roof slopes on the ADU. What is the existing house roof slopes?
So the existing house has 2 different roof slopes. It's got gables. It also has some hip elements to it. I don't know what the plate is on the existing house. I know that it's at least 8 feet. It's probably 9 feet in some areas, or at least the exterior of the house is the same height as a 9-foot plate. We want to do 9-foot plates because we have a small space and we think it needs that breathing room. And the entire structure, the upper limit for a special ADU is 16 feet to the ridge. We're under that. And the plate's pretty important to us, and we don't see that there's a significant issue with mass, bulk, and scale of this little 800 square foot building to have to reduce a plate height. What's our ridge height, Sergio?
1310 from finish grade, and you can see that this is the natural grade is below the 18 feet or 16.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got a house that's really just not that wide from front to back, and so it just doesn't generate a very high ridge height.
Okay, and you're vaulting the inside, yeah.
partially, over the main living spaces, and then the bedrooms are probably going to have, they're lidded off, right?
Yeah, this is all vaulted, and then in the bathrooms or, back of house rooms, there are going to be drop-down ceilings with the drywall.
In the garage, I mean, ADUs typically, there's exceptions around parking, but you're providing 2 covered parking spaces for the ADU.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not required, but we didn't want people parking on the street down there, and we had a pretty large lot frontage and the ability to make that part comply with setbacks, so we decided to do it.
Right. And roughly that front setback on your lower, for the ADU, in the site pictures, we see the flat, so basically the ADU would begin roughly where it starts to slope up. Is that, just generally to understand where you're starting it?
That's correct. So basically, right there at the transition in the slope, about half of the ADU is back where the slope starts going up, and the front half is out over sort of the flat area, and we're cutting some area out of that slope and putting that fill back in the front, so it just sort of raises it up. It raises the pad of the ADU. But again, the majority of that flat area you're looking at is not on our property. It's out in the street right of way.
Right.
Which kind of gives you a really big setback from the street effectively, even though it's not on our property. It's in the right of way. It can't ever be developed with anything.
Right.
Oh, also, I'm sorry, we didn't cover it in our presentation, but we're also planting some new trees along the frontage. The Street Tree Advisory Committee came out and did their site visit. We're removing a couple trees that were subject to their purview, and we're putting back 6, I think.
Yep.
So
3 in the public right-of-way, and then 3 within
the
property.
site. And we've picked trees and locations which won't grow up to conflict with the overhead power lines that are there. We don't want to have trees that are going to have to get the tops, the SCE special trim. We're trying to avoid that.
How many are you removing?
Oh, there's a total of 4.
Okay.
Over here, there's, it's like a cluster, the 2 of them, jacarandas and glossy spribbits. No.
We don't know what that is.
There's a certain type of, but it's glossy privets. Those are, and then over here as well, glossy privets and small jacarandas.
The only other thing I had, sorry, when asking on the questions, is the good neighbor. You just talked about landscaping. Did you go over lighting, exterior lighting with us, or any other communication with neighbors?
Yeah, Chair Lewis, Board Member Anderson, we had a neighborhood meeting. We invited everybody that's nearby us to come out. We had a
Nice.
meeting out on site on Tuesday last week, and everybody could come over and see the plans. A lot of people came. How many people do you think came out? Probably 10, right?
10, 15 throughout.
Yeah, a lot of people came by. We were out there for a while, and people kind of came and went and asked us questions, and it was great having it on the site because we could point out where everything was. So we did that. We answered everybody's questions. And in terms of exterior lighting, we're not proposing any exterior lighting other than the exterior fixtures on the structures, to comply with code. And those are all dark sky compliant. and-
Photo.
And they're on their photocell.
Thank you.
Is there any other landscaping proposed? I see the site walls, but anything else there to create a sort of front yard for the ADU?
Well, other than building this area up and the terraces here, like a natural grade.
I'm sure we'll have some sort of ground cover covering that. We're not going to just leave it as dirt or
yeah.
mulch. But no, we didn't, for a
Not
project of this scale, we didn't want to get a landscape architect and that would be 20% additional of the project budget to go and do that. So We do that on a lot of larger projects, but on this one, we just picked the trees and sited them.
Any questions?
Just because a minor zoning exception is requested, because the retaining walls are within 10 feet. So how far are they? It's within 10 feet of the front lot line. Do you know what the actual distance is? Just so I
Yeah,
can
I'll
kind
show
of
you.
gauge.
Go to the site plan. The sequence. Okay, so the two retaining walls that are in question are these two. Our lot line,
That's the lot line.
this is the lot line, and this is 10 feet, this
Okay.
dash line.
So what's the height of our
6.
lower wall there? It's like 4 feet, right? 6 feet,
This one is 42.
42 inches.
2 inches, but because of the proximity of it, this is also another 42 inches, so together.
You add them together. So
You add
that
them.
whole front wall on its own wouldn't trigger a minor zoning exception. It's because
Okay.
there's the other wall that's behind it.
And what is the material in between the walls?
This?
Yeah.
It's landscaping, similar to the other, I mean, we'll put some plantings and
Okay.
things like that. But
Got
there
it.
is going to be a tree also there that we're
Okay.
proposing as part of the remediation.
Okay. I know I have a few comments, but I think that's it for my questions.
Okay, I think we can move into comments. And I'm curious from the board what we've done in the past. As a part of project design approval, we need preliminary landscape plans. I understand that the scope of this, the residence is quite small, but is there a condition in final approval for
Do we need
plans?
them? I don't think we do need, technically.
If
for
it's not part of
PDA.
this, I'm just looking at our,
I think if it's the FAR is over.
Chair Lewis, board members,
oh,
a landscape plan wouldn't be required for a
Okay.
project. You could request one if you thought that it
Got
would
it,
be
okay.
necessary
I just wanted
to
to make
help
sure.
make your findings.
okay.
I mean, just as
Yeah.
we're discussing, I do think, especially because of if we do approve an MZE for the retaining walls, I feel like it's appropriate to have some sort of landscape something. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be fully detailed.
I know, what if we get like
Plan, but-
photos of the intended plants or intended inspiration for
Yeah.
them, some kind of direction of where they're going, rather than requiring them to hire a landscape architect?
Yeah.
Board Member Anderson, do you agree? As a part of their final approval?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I mean, more conceptual, yeah. But, I mean, because we have a double front,
Right. It's a front yard in
It's a front yard.
And I think other kind of general comments, the site is so large, it could easily have been split into two or more. And so I think it's totally reasonable to build on this other, street face. I think this is a very minimal project. It's under 800 square feet. And I think that the landscape wall, that's, one of my main kind of design comments, is more if that can start to feel like the landscape going up rather than a wall on the backside. So either something that blends in with the hillside on the back wall or a natural material. And I would like to see the recommended plantings in the front. You have so many of those terraces. It is already a large setback. So the landscaping is important, and right now you're kind of the first development along there, and I think it will set a precedent there. But it will also need to blend into this kind of natural landscaping that occurs. But I think matching, even though you can't quite see the two homes together, I think matching the same language in these materials is a good call, and something easy for us to support.
Yeah, it's hard for me because, well, it's not hard. I mean, yeah, it should match. Though I wish the existing house was a little darker, because I think just the way the street is, I think it would be better to have a darker exterior color to to blend more in with the
With the
hillside,
hillside.
but, and I don't know if
I
you
would
can
be
see that.
open
I
to
mean,
us going darker if you guys are open to that as
That's,
well.
that's okay, and like the city's architectural guidelines for ADUs, they don't require an exact match.
Right.
They require you to match the architecture in terms of the style, the roof pitch, and all that. So I think we'd be fine going with a slightly darker body color.
Okay, it's funny because we're always the opposite, where we want it to match the existing residents, but it's
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
because
they're
of the
so
site and you
separate.
can't
I think
see
it will
and-
help. Right.
Yeah, if possible or for consideration, definitely no lighter. And I'm familiar with Swiss coffee. I mean, it is a white or an off-white. I don't want to take away your. Are you wrapped with your comments or?
I'll keep at it. That's generally it. I mean, I'm generally in. No, sir. Thank you. This is the time for the board to have comments.
As part of my interruption, I just wanted to clarify that the ADU is under purview of the board because it doesn't meet the requirements, so it can be a different color.
Sure, yeah.
I just want to make that clear
Yeah.
that you do have that option. Thank you.
I just don't want to send mixed messages because I know that tends.
But
yeah.
typically,
Do you want to continue?
yeah, otherwise, I think we received comments from neighbors who are in full support, and I want to applaud you for having the conversations with the neighborhood. And it looks like significant site research to understand the stability of working with the tricky conditions. And I'm totally in support of the replacing of the 6 trees by removing the 4.
I'm trying to just read through. Some of my questions are mixed in. Yeah, from my perspective, I'm generally in support. And with respect to some of the public comments today, some of that is just out of our purview in terms of, your concerns with the engineering and the precedent set or the housing zoning rules. Usually when we see a project, it's already going through that, and we're just focused on the design of the project or the house. Appreciate that you've been engaging with your neighbors. Yeah, I think just the material color, consider something potentially darker as much as it can kind of blend into that area. And then similar to the landscape comment, I know you mentioned like ground cover, but I think in front of those retaining walls, especially something that's growing up a little more, a taller shrub or something. Other than that, yeah, I don't think I have any other comments. Appreciate the top height's really modest, in my opinion, and I can support the 9-foot plate height as well.
Any other comments?
I agree. I am, just trying to, I don't think I have any conditions, but some comments.
Okay, so it sounds like we would like to see some landscape inspiration for the front, and that in general we agree with a darker color for the plaster and or different material along the back. Okay, so I'll move to approve this project for project design approval with the condition that the final approval package includes landscape planting intent. Photos are acceptable, and especially the plantings that screen the site walls. And that the exterior wall color be either the Swiss coffee or darker, recommending it to be darker to blend into the hillside, and that the back retaining wall be of a natural stone or a darker color blending in with the topography. And then the following preservation findings.
Yeah, so we'll go through the MZE findings. I also wanted to ask the board at the end of your motion making if you want to continue this back to full board or to consent. You don't have to do that now, just do that after you find all the rest of your motions. Thank you.
All right, the proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood. It provides a curated front on both street elevations. The proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood, and its size, bulk, and scale is appropriate to the site and neighborhood. The size of the project is very minimal and is quite hidden along with the topography and blends in well. The proposed buildings and structures are designed with quality architectural details. The proposed materials and colors maintain the natural appearance of the ridgeline or hillside. The proposed project does not include the removal of significant trees, though they are replacing 4 trees with 6 new trees. To the maximum extent feasible, the project preserves and protects healthy, non-invasive trees with a trunk diameter of 4 inches or more. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected and preserved, and the project has gone through significant grading and site studies. The project generally complies with the Good Neighbor Guideline regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting. The development, including proposed structures and grading, preserves significant public scenic views of and from the hillside. The proposed changes to the coloring will help the development blend in more with the hillside. The board finds the following minor zoning exception criteria have been met. The granting of such exception will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the neighborhood. The improvements are cited such that they minimize impact next to abutting properties. The project generally complies with applicable privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting standards in the single-family design board. The improvement will be compatible with the existing development and character of the neighborhood. The fence height, or the site walls, the granting of such exemption will not create or exacerbate an obstruction of the necessary sightliness for the safe operation of motor vehicles.
And I'll stop you right there. You just need to read 5A.
Oh,
so,
good. I was
yeah.
like that. Oh, good. Cool.
Yeah.
We recommend that this be continued to the consent calendar.
I will second that motion.
And apologies, if you could wait one moment, I just want to verify that grading findings are not necessary for this project.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stress that I feel like, the perception of the ADU is it's smaller, it's cheaper, but.
That's what we'll add in a general comment that as we look forward to reviewing the cut sheets and exterior details as a part of the final review.
And apologies for this, but we did not include in the footer here that grading findings were required for this project, but they are.
Okay, we can read those as well.
Yeah, if you could just make those findings as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The grading findings have been met as stated in section 226930 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code. The proposed grading will not significantly increase siltation in or decrease the water quality of streams, drainage, or water storage facilities to which the property drains. And the proposed grading will not cause a substantial loss of southern oak woodland habitat. Does the seconder agree with the
I
change?
accept those revisions.
Okay, we will take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffitti,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And
Appealable?
I just wanted to say that that does, we do have 10 calendar days for an appeal to be submitted. If we don't receive any appeal during that period, you guys are free to move on to submit for final approval. And yeah, we'll wait in the meantime. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That is the end of our board meeting for May 6th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you.